In this video, we're going to be talking about the history and the development of the GC Index, a journey which started in 2013. There are two messages I think we need to focus on in this video. One is an understanding of the GC Index in terms of its origins in the world of work, and you're going to be talking about that. The other thing that we want to focus on in this particular video is the GC Index and its roots in scientific research. And I'm going to focus on that. So take us back to 2013.
Well, it all started, John, as you well know, but maybe our listeners don't, is when I was working in another organisation that helped organisations grow. And working with senior leaders, they're often looking for different types of talent to grow, to change their organisation, whether that's a growth strategy, an organisational design, entering new markets, mergers and acquisitions, whatever it may have been. And they sort of kept saying, I want some people different. I'm like, well, okay. And what would normally happen is you would sit down with them, take a brief, the type of people they want. They'd have a competency framework, an attribute framework, and all this stuff. You spend a couple of hours with them, stuff they spent a lot of money on, quite frankly. And at the end of it, leaders are often saying, just get me some people that get it. And you think, well, this is a bit of a waste of time then, this stuff you spend lots of money on. Describe it to me. And they used words like pixie dust or that special je ne sais quoi or the X factor, but they couldn't really describe it. They couldn't describe it, what it was. So for me, it was, well, what is this thing that everyone thinks they understand, but they can't articulate what it is? So that's what got me going. Is there a marginalised group of talent? Is there a different type of talent out there? And we turned them I came to you and we turned them game changers to start on a piece of research. But it came from a fundamental drive that the existing talent frameworks or the existing frameworks that organisations were using to get this special type of talent were not fit for purpose. And that's kind of how it started.
Yeah. And you came to me with a request based upon those observations, I recall.
I did. And what were your first impressions of that, John?
Well, there was a view, wasn't there, that you said to me, tell us about game changers and what do they look like and what are their characteristics. And as you know, I can be a bit of a cynical academic at times. So I thought it was all a little bit fanciful. And I think my pushback was to say, listen, if we really think that our game changers that your clients have been talking about were a different, discrete talent, we need to do the research to support that view, not expecting you to come up with the funds to do that. I still don't know how you managed to do that.
So we started a piece of research, which I know you're going to talk about, because there'll be those that are extremely interested to hear about hear about the research, not just some idea that some guy working with business leaders came up with. But that's where it all started. And also throughout that time, another itch, if you will, in my mind, had I spent a lot of time on the diversity circuit. Social mobility, as people will know, is extraordinarily important to me. But when I'm going on these different sort of events, I kept thinking, why am I the only man at this women's event? Or why am I the only straight person at an LGBT event? And why am I the only white person at a BAME or Red event? Can't we just see people for the impact they make rather than these other boxes that society is deemed to put them in? So yes, come from the business world, absolutely thinking that existing talent frameworks weren't working, but this notion that people are people. It doesn't matter what box we put them into, they've got a fundamental impact to make. Can we not just see them? And that they're probably the two themes that were in my mind before you then just kicked off your research.
And they do remain, don't they, at the heart of the GC Index, in the sense that for us, impact reflects a fundamental human drive to be potent in our world, to have an effect, have an impact.
Yeah.
So there was this question, wasn't there, about initially about game changes. This was a very narrow focus, and that's often the way research starts. And so the GC Index does have its roots in scientific endeavour. And from 2013 to probably 15 at
Was
least.
the first original piece of research, absolutely.
We were collecting data,
Yeah.
I recall, and the methodology of those research projects is written up elsewhere, so
Yeah.
we can refer people to our tech spec and
Yeah,
so on.
the tech spec's a bit dull and boring, John, as we've realised, so we've called it the GC matrix. Of
We
course.
have, and,
Yeah.
but some people have actually read it, so that, yeah.
Yeah.
So the details of the methodology are written up.
Yeah.
But it was focused in the early days on very two simple questions. Do these folk exist? Do our game changers exist?
Yeah.
And do they have defining characteristics?
Yeah.
And you know as well as I do that I was probably more surprised than you when our findings suggested that these folk did exist.
Yeah.
They did have defining characteristics. That was the start of the development of the GC index model, which we're going to talk about on another video. But here we were with the beginnings of the GC index journey.
Exactly.